this channel before. My name is oh, wait, sorry. Okay, here we are. There we are. Hi everybody, it is Lasha Royenko from Royal Push. I'm gonna groom once and then I won't groom again. Okay, hello. Again, my name is Lasha Royenko and this isn't a book club, but I am reading books that interest me. And I'll show you here. These are the books that I'm reading. The Exorcism of Annalise Michael by Dr. Goodman. I want to read The Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And I found this book. And it's a special edition, and it is a children's book or an adult's book. I love those stories. So those are the ones that I'm concentrating on. I was just sharing the books that I was concentrating on. So I've never gone live on Royal Pushback Aftermath before. However, I'm going live on, oh, this is so silly. So for those of you who have been with me before, you know what I'm going to say. So take the red line, and I've been online for 1 minute and 52 seconds. So go to 3 minutes if you've been with me for a long time. If you've never been here before, welcome. And what I was going to tell you was this channel that you're watching live, both of them right now, there's another channel that I had, and it was called L&L Soul Sisters, and it was 266 souls. People took the time to listen to me, of all people. I just was, you never know what's inside you until you try. And so I put the names of everybody that joined. I did get this idea from the TNT UK. However, she's so fancy on the computer. She's my age, but much more mature. She's had children. I've never had children. But I've got a lot of walls. And I will never, and the reason I don't do it on the computer are for two reasons. One, I don't know how, but even if I did know how, I wouldn't do it that way. Because that's personal to me. It's tactical, and so is this, but that's not as personal. And it's a mirror reflection at me every day. That even when I've got my mother, I have my uncles too, and my aunt. I have 3 very close friends. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter. So let's just get right to it. Matthew Perry. Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, Chapter 1, The Void. And if you haven't been to the channel before, I started a Matthew Perry playlist. So I read the foreword, the prologue, and now this is Chapter 1, The View. And I have never been a Friends fan. When I was 20 to 28, I was working 2 jobs at the Visiting Homemakers of Hamilton Wentworth and Jenny Craig, and I still remember my schedule to this day. It was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Jenny Craig, 40 hours, because back then you couldn't work part-time. And 30 years later, look at the difference. And I'm not old, but people think I'm old. I know all you millennials think I'm old. Maybe I shouldn't assume. At any rate, oh, I have a little bit of ADHD. It'll come back to me. Oh, Friends, it was like a cult following. And I gave some opinions in Lisa Kudrow's foreword, and then Matthew Perry's um, prologue. Yeah, forward, prologue. Anytime there's a quote, I'll do this. But I wasn't a Friends cult follower, but I remember watching, like, I don't know what year it was, but when Friends ended that year, Oprah Winfrey had them on her show, which everybody, I've done the same. Okay, let's just get on with the reading. I told you 5 minutes in, okay, I went 1 minute and 21 seconds over. The View. Nobody ever thinks that something really bad is going to happen to them until it does. And anybody comes from a professional, what? And nobody comes from a perforated bowel aspiration pneumonia and an ECMO machine until somebody did me. That is, everybody, I say this all the time, everybody should write a memoir because everybody has a story, and that's a first. I've never heard that before. And I have a story that none of you have heard before, but I'm not famous. And what I was going to say about famous people and people that have money, if you can keep your ego down to earth and remember where you came from and give back, not to charities where you have to pay $1,000 and this and that, but to people who really need it. When Oprah Winfrey gave people like $1,000, I thought, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not even going to talk about Oprah. So yeah, that was a very unique situation. I can't even fathom the pain he would have been in and the sickness, how rotten he would feel, I'm writing this in a rented house overlooking the Pacific Ocean. My real house is down the street being renovated, and they say, whoever they are, it will take 6 months. So I figure about a year, which is very true. A pair of red-tailed hawks is circling below me in the canyon that brings down to the water. It's a gorgeous spring day in Los Angeles. The morning I've been busy hanging art on my walls, or rather having them hung. I'm not too handy. I've really gotten into art in the last few years, and if you look close enough, you'll find the old Bansky or two. I'm also working on the second draft of a screenplay. There's fresh Diet Coke in my glass and a full pack of Marlboros in my pocket. Sometimes these things are enough. Sometimes. I keep coming back to this singular, inescapable fact: I am alive. Alive. Given the odds. Those 3 words are more miraculous than you might imagine. To me, they have an odd, shiny quality like rocks brought back from a distant planet. No one can quite believe it. It's very odd to live in a world where if you died, it would shock people but surprise no one. When those 3 words, I am alive, fill me above all else in a sense of profound gratitude, when you've been as close to the celestial as I have, You don't have a choice about gratitude. It sits on your living room table like a coffee table book. You barely notice it, but it's there. Yet, stalking that gratitude buried deep somewhere in a faint, distant, licorice voice of the Diet Coke and filling my lungs like every drag of every cigarette, there's a nagging agony. I can't help but ask myself the overwhelming question why? Why am I alive? Now, can I just stop and interject for 1 minute right there? Why am I alive? The reason I'm interjecting there, and it's a totally different subject. Does anybody remember the movie from the 90s or the 80s, and it's called Alive, and it starred Ethan Hawke and the lady who played the woman who was Ard in Cape Fear with Robert De Niro? I don't know her name, but I never forget a face, or a voice. So it was an excellent movie, and it occurred in 1972 up in the not Appalachian Mountains, the Mount Everest area, and these young soccer players were going to Chile. The plane crashed, they stayed alive, and they had to commit cannibalism on the people. Now that might be an interesting book. End of the day, why did they make it alive and other people didn't? There's a new Netflix series, and it's called The Sound of Snow, something snow, but it's the same story as Alive. And there's a book called Alive, written by one of the survivors, and that's the question he kept having to ask himself. They survived almost 3 months in a mountain with no food, no water, no way to wash. And they were very deeply, deeply religious and pious, and Catholicism was the huge religion, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it doesn't matter what religion it was, but they were terrified to come home and explain how they survived, but they did. And one woman died because she wouldn't eat. But by the time these men went from 200-pound athletes to 86-pound men able to run on adrenaline, trying to survive. That's the human spirit. Just a different level. And every story has its meaning. I can't help but ask myself that, okay, we understand that part. Now, even after that, and the example that I give you, and he talks about alcoholism and all of that type of thing. Many alcoholics, people who have suffered with any type of addiction, like money. Like, how much money is enough for people? When is it enough? If I had a family member or a friend that was in dire straits and I was able to give them money, I would do it in a heartbeat and have done. But anyways, so he's looking at the scars of his stomach, broken love affairs, leaving Rachel, not that one, the real Rachel, the ex-girlfriend of my dreams. Okay, now this is interesting. They haunt me as I lie awake at 4 a.m. in my house with a view in the Pacific. I'm 52. It's not that cute anymore. That's interesting. That's a lot of self-awareness, you know. I think people that go through trauma have more self-awareness than people that have easy lives. And I've met people who have had very charmed lives. And it's almost like their lives are so charmed that they do things to fuck everything up with relationships, or I don't know what they do. Or they do what Ghislaine Maxwell did and make puppets out of Prince Andrew. Ochi! Edith! See, nowadays, I can't even make a joke about All in the Family. Anyways, he's talking about all of these hundreds and thousands of dollars that he has, and he was chosen for that. But he was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and why him, and why him, and why him. And I understand that. Therapy, he's got all of it, but he's sitting out there looking into the canyons and the cardinals and the trees, and why me? And it's so honest of him to say that. It's not a pouting. It's a real, in my opinion, shows how low his self-esteem was with what he had. So for and I know what that's like personally, and you hold yourself together and people think you're okay and you are not. And he's so brave to share that. And then he goes on to say, as a famous person, I got all these perks, more at the airports, but every time it reminded me of that first flight. So I hated them. The flight attendants were supposed to look after me, but they were busy serving champagne in a coach. That's what they did in the anything goes 1970s. The 2-drink minimum had exactly recently been done away with. I forgot that. So the flight felt like 6 hours in Sodom and Gomorrah. The stench of alcohol was everywhere. The guy next to me must have had 10 old fashions. I don't even know what those are. I stopped counting after a couple of hours. I couldn't imagine why any adult would want to drink the same drink over and over again. Well, he found out, didn't he? And then he goes on to say he was fucking terrified. I tried to read my highlights magazine, but every time the plane hit a bump in the air, I knew I was about to die. Yeah, he's talking about having the inability to rest or take a nap. And then in his humor, he says, because I keep thinking about falling 35,000 feet. And it's funny, but then I think of those soccer players in 1972 that were going to Chile and what they had to do. So traumas are not comparative, and one doesn't outdo the other, but no matter the trauma, it's a black hole, and it's the same feeling, and just like Matthew Perry had to recover his body with an exploding, and my father had ulcerated colitis and had a colostomy bag. And when he talks about that, and you have to watch the other video, honestly, because you really do, to catch up on what I'm saying if you just tuned in now. But he was talking about not having a parent bothered him. He felt abandoned all the time, and that's why he bought that new house. And then he felt so alone, but he then goes on to say, down there somewhere in that valley or in that vast ocean out there beyond the Pacific coast anyway, on the glimmering primaries of the red trail's wings, that's where parenting is. That's where love is. That's where home is. I feel safe now. Well, thank God. He went through a lot of trauma to feel safe. Why was that little kid on the plane on his own? Maybe fly to Canada? And fucking pick on him? That's the question I often wonder. Now, he's talking about his experiences. I get that. I'm not the biggest fan of confrontation. I ask a lot of questions, just not out loud. All right, I'm going to leave it there. You know why? That was 19 minutes. I know Cheer Denise is reading this book as well, but she reads for an hour. So my clips are about 20 minutes each, And she'll have a completely different take on this because I don't know if she was a fan of Friends, but maybe she was. And she's my hero, just so you know. Cheer, Denise, if you see this, you're my hero. I've had a lot of heroes and I've watched a lot of YouTube, but I've never met anybody the same as how I feel is I will never have super thanks or a tip jar. You're the only person that I've ever had that. And there is one woman I used to admire so much. At the end of her videos, she would say, if you want to treat me to a cup of coffee, and you know, they're $10 thanks to keep the channel going. Come on. I'm putting my monetization up, and it's not going to me, it's going to the people that need it. And you can all watch, and you might not believe me, but the proof is in the action, okay? Yeah, and my back is killing me. All right. I really thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it. And I know that it's going to get better and better and better. It'll just take me a lot longer and longer and longer to read it, okay? And like I said, I have lots of walls and mirrors, and I'll never forget a soul, okay? As I always say, because I struggle very much with depression and ADHD, but those are labels that doctors create that fit people in a certain category, but whatever. Be kind to yourselves. Take care of yourselves in the way that you feel is the best. Okay? And God bless all of you in whatever God you believe in. Okay, now this is brand new to me. Trevor! Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. Did you watch the videos that I sent you on today about held comments? And I said what Trevor said. You're the best. Thank you so much. I just don't know how to turn this off. How do you turn it off? Start a poll. How do you turn it off? No. Cancel? Or do I just hit this button? Yes, I want to end.